YouTubers. So we back with the late night, you know what I'm saying? And y'all new to this just like I am about what I'm about to unveil to y'all. And tonight we talking about doctor accused of trying to kill wife in Hawaii, y'all. I think y'all heard me right. Now this doctor is alleged of pushing his wife off a cliff in Oahu, Hawaii, y'all. So this is what it is. A doctor in Hawaii is accused of trying to kill his wife by pushing her off a cliff in Oahu, Hawaii. The pair lived in a beautiful island and had been out for a hike when the alleged crime occurred. Witnesses called the ambulance and had law enforcement on the scene, y'all. The doctor was reportedly spotted beating his wife and attacking her, and he ran off. So let's see what they talking about, y'all. He ran off, you know what I mean? After he probably just lost it, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm thinking of. The dude lost it, you know what I'm saying? And let's see, let's get into this. Let's get into this and see what they're talking about.
Just picture in your mind a beautiful hiking trail in Hawaii. It overlooks the water, there's greenery everywhere. Simply put, it's just beautiful. But what if I tell you it's also the scene where this doctor allegedly tried to murder his own wife? I'm Elizabeth Milner with Law and Crime. Dr. Gerhard Koenig was on the run for more than 6 hours. But was this an accident or pre-planned and intentional? Well, you have a rock involved, syringes, and then you flee the scene. It's hard to say it was an accident. We don't have to go back very far for this case. It happened this past Monday. Dr. Gerhard Koenig and his wife Ariel were on a popular hiking trail in Hawaii, the Windward Oahu Hiking Trail on the island of Oahu. And it's not like these two were on vacation. They lived in Hawaii. Dr. Koenig was a doctor, a renowned anesthesiologist, and according to LinkedIn, a partner at the Anesthesia Medical Group in Maui since 2023. His wife Ariel also had an impressive resume. She had a background in nuclear engineering. So if you're going off the appearance of social media, it seemed they had it all. Great jobs, they lived in Hawaii. It appeared picture perfect until everything came to light on Monday. So what happened on Monday? Then Gerhard allegedly attacked his wife. Did it come out of nowhere? Well, not necessarily. The reason behind the alleged attack, to me at least, just doesn't make sense. Police say the alleged attack started after Ariel refused to take a picture with him. It's puzzling, right? But it only got worse from there. Police say Gerhard hit his wife over the head with a rock, not once, but allegedly multiple times. And according to a report by Hawaii News Now, what also doesn't look too good is Dr. Koenig allegedly just left his wife on the trail, leaving her behind. He didn't even stay to call 911. He ran, literally.
All right, y'all. So just getting into the first minute of it and letting this young lady on Law and Crime explain what's been going on with this doctor and his wife while they was visiting Hawaii, where they stayed in Hawaii. And it seems to me while they was on this trip, and he had poked her. Y'all know what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking this dude had this planned the whole time, y'all. He already knew he was going to plant it. He had it planned out. He knew what he was going to do before it even occurred. He knew it. And the sad part about it is she didn't know. She didn't know what was coming, y'all. This beautiful lady, she didn't see it coming, y'all. And you know, it's sad he had to take this route. And you know, it puzzles me. I always have to ask myself, what was he thinking? You know, at the time that he just flipped on her, did he have enough? Was he pushed to the limit to where he couldn't take it anymore? What was it? that drove him to want to do something like this to her. So let's keep listening in.
He allegedly took off on foot. Officers were alerted to the case after witnesses called 911 to report a man was beating a woman on the trail. Ariel was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. She reportedly suffered from serious head injuries and multiple injuries to her face. But she was able to tell detectives who attacked her and left her there to almost die. She says it was her husband. Police spent hours looking for him, and they were rushing to find him, even putting out this wanted poster that says the Honolulu Police Department is asking for the public's assistance in locating Gerhard Koning of Maui. Koning was on Oahu with his wife this morning when he attempted to push her off a hiking trail and struck her in the head with a rock. He was last seen near the Pali Lookout and was wearing a light gray shirt and blue shorts and carrying a black bag. Then, a little more than 6 hours later, a spotting of Dr. Koning. He reportedly was still on foot. There was a brief chase, but he was arrested. At the time, charges were pending, but it's been reported he could face attempted second-degree murder. But again, still pending right now. So what does his job have to say about the allegations? Dr. Koning is employed by an independent entity contracted to provide medical services at various medical facilities on Maui, including Maui Memorial Medical Center. Dr. Koning's medical staff privileges at Maui Memorial Medical Center have been suspended pending investigation. Maui Health takes these concerns and the safety of its patients very seriously and will cooperate with authorities as appropriate. It's unclear if Dr. Koning's wife is still in the hospital, but the allegations against him left his friends and coworkers stunned. One coworker described to Island News that he was quiet and friendly. Former neighbors and friends reported the same and told KDKA-TV that the couple were friendly. As of this reporting, Dr. Koning's medical license is in good standing, but like I mentioned, he's been suspended from his job. It's unclear what will happen next, as now...
Alright, y'all. So y'all know I had to say something, right? So first of all, man, this dude is not even arrested. His wife has passed. And all they have to say is they think he might have something to do with it. What? Now this is one of those worst case scenarios. Like worst case, they arrest him. You know what I mean? That's the best outcome that could come out of this, y'all. If not, he might walk free from this, y'all. Cause I'm gonna tell you straight up, ain't nobody else murdered his wife, y'all. Who else would want to do something like that don't even know her? Think about it, y'all. So this dude right here is basically a walking time bomb, y'all. And there's no excuse as to why he had to do something like this to her. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. It ain't no excuse. Now, he hated her that much to where he had to go to the extent of pushing her off a cliff. I mean, and then his alibi might end up turning out to be to where he don't even have to do no time or anything. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, man, it was that serious to where, and you a doctor, like you got money, you got home, you got house, you well established, like you couldn't find another woman, you had to off her with everything you got going for yourself. I don't understand some of these people out here, y'all. I mean, they get to the point to where they're level-headed up here, and then, you know what I mean, they just start falling apart. At some point, they just start falling apart. You know what I mean? They really do need therapy too. I would say some doctors and, you know, the physicians and, you know, people of high power, they also need therapy and stuff like that. They need other people to talk to them to keep them level-headed also, y'all. You know what I mean? So let's keep listening in. So y'all heard what they said. Right now, he's not being charged at this. He's been accused of doing these these crimes to this lady, y'all. So let's keep listening in.
Prosecutors are weighing what to charge him with. I'm joined now by retired NYPD detective and co-host of the Gold Shields podcast. That's Tom Smith. Tom, always great to see you, and thank you so much for joining me. What's your reaction to this really startling case?
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. The actions themselves are just horrifying of what happened to this woman, this wife of this guy. But me looking at it from the perspective of a detective, there's a lot more to this than I think, is being shown right now or being released right now. And part of that is, in all the years of working, high crimes and all that, you rarely see just an absolute snap of someone because they're not taking a picture. And not taking a picture and launching your wife off a cliff and trying to bash her head in with a rock is a little much for a just instinctive reaction to something. Me looking at this as a detective, I am going way back into this guy's history and checking every type of social media accounts he has, who's he talking to, Google searches of what he's, checking out and researching to see if there was a premeditation to this. And this is just what happened and it set him off. But there's a lot more to this, I think, as far as a history goes, than just the act that happened.
A bigger reaction, and do you think that this was possibly planned out?
Yeah, I believe it was, because, even going to the extent of where did they hike to? The height, did that play a role in it of where he picked, this destination to be? And hopefully down the line, the wife is able to give an interview about, their history, what's going on with their marriage, and also interviewing family members and friends about what their views of their marriage was. Was there any problems? Was there any violence that just didn't get reported? That happens a lot in domestic issues as well. Just because there's no reporting doesn't mean nothing happened. So these are all avenues that this investigation is certainly going to go into. But the syringes, as you brought up, Elizabeth, is very concerning, because that is an absolute premeditation in and of itself. And what was in those syringes is going to play a big part in this.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to know what was in those too, and I'm sure down the line we'll definitely learn a lot more. In terms of police investigating a case like this, out in what I imagine to be just kind of an open area out in Hawaii and a trail, probably more likely how do police come up with determinations when it comes to charging cases like this? It's been reported that Dr. Koenig is possibly facing an attempted second-degree murder charge, but how do police come up with and determine these types of things in an investigation like this?
Yeah, a lot of it is working backwards. Like I stated, with his social media accounts and his Google searches and past history, that's all going to play a role in this. And the syringes, again, not to bring it up again, but that is going to lead to a determination of premeditation because of what was in there. You're not just bringing 2 syringes filled with something on a hiking trip with your wife. That's not the norm. And then the possibility of him trying to use them, at the time of the attack is playing. All of this is going to play into this, and it raising to a second degree, possible attempted murder charge might be Hawaii's premeditation with the second degree. So that is what I mean by, what did detectives uncover when it came to this case?
Yeah, and when you have the syringes and then also this other tidbit that he ran away afterwards, that kind of plays into also a little bit of conscience of guilt. Now, again, these are allegations. We don't know the full extent just yet, but it does kind of not seem good on Dr. Koenig's part to run away on foot by that and just leave his wife to die on a hiking trail, allegedly. What do you make of him just running away?
Yeah, you know what? When it comes to injuries, the first thing all of us would do is call 911 or try to get help, if it was an accident. And that wasn't the case here. He was fleeing the scene, getting out of that area any way he could. But good police work, prevented that and they got him. But, again, when you're talking about one specific case, Elizabeth, there's so much more that goes into it on the investigative level. And every faction of what he did plays a role in the determination of how the investigation runs. So it's kind of put into a timeline of what happened, when it happened, and the evidence that they collected from, the investigation that leads to a whole umbrella when it comes to this kind of case.
Yeah. And, when you're investigating a case like this, especially involving domestic violence and partner on partner type of crime, in your opinion, are those harder to investigate than, a stranger on stranger crime?
Well, it is, because the fear factor of being silent always plays a role in it. Domestic issues are really tough because there's one part of that relationship scared enough not to say anything. And if nothing is said, it's hard to prove when you don't have a witness or a complainant in a case when it comes to a domestic assault. So,
alright, so y'all hear this dude, right, y'all? And like I say, he's one of those guys, even though we're talking about the doctor and his lovely wife that has passed and the tragedy that occurred with her, this dude right here, y'all, is one of those dudes where he lives for the moment of stuff like this to happen so that he can have his day to talk about something like this, and it's just so exciting to him, though. You know what I mean? And everybody has their own opinion about what goes down and what happens when something tragic like this happens, because it's not only the lady who lost her life, it's also her family that's going to mourn and stuff like that also, you know what I mean? So on their behalf, I know it's sad and they'll never be able to recoup the way they should be, you know what I mean, because of the incident that happened to this lady. Now, on the other hand, you have to ask yourself, this guy right here, what does he get out the situation? Even though, yeah, he's being paid, he's on the clock for doing his work, but what else is it? What puzzles me about him? Even though he's on the side of solving crimes, when I look at him, it's also like a puzzle inside of him. What is it in him that what type of joy does this bring to him from solving these type of crimes that come out? You know what I mean? When stuff like this do happen. So, like I say, to me, he looks like one of those guys who just, he gets a thrill out of this. It's not just like he got you and let it go, and oh no, it's like he gets a thrill and he lives for these type of scenes. And guess what? I wish these scenes would never happen at all. But some people live for these scenes, y'all. They live for stuff like this to happen so they can have a moment to talk about it. So with that being said, yeah, let's keep on listening in, y'all. Let's go.
all of that, those factors are difficult when so much fear or intimidation plays a role in a domestic issue.
And I'm sure it was terrifying for Dr. Conan's wife to kind of tell investigators, it was my husband who had hit me over the head with this rock, allegedly. I still have to say that. But how delicate do investigators have to be when they do speak with Dr. Conan's wife or any victim of a domestic violence situation?
Yeah, you have to be very delicate. And the positive part in this case is he's in jail, so there's no rush. You let her heal. You let, little.
And let me remind y'all, this dude will have his day in court because she did not die. I repeat, she did not die. So what happened was, if you read, if you was listening earlier, it was a doctor in Hawaii, and he's accused of trying to kill his wife by pushing her off a cliff. So he tried to kill her. She didn't die, y'all. So let's pay attention to that. So there will be a case out of this, and we'll listen in to what really goes on once this goes to court.
All investigative roles take their run at her and let her kind of talk on her own terms on her timeline. With healing, and there's a lot of healing that she's going to have to go through, not just physically, but certainly mentally. So you have to take your time because you want to get the right information. You don't want it clouded by a defense attorney saying, well, she was on medication when she said that, or she was in the hospital and stressed out. So all of those investigative techniques have to play a role in this, with really taking your time and getting the right information from the key witness who's the victim in this.
And I want to go back to a point we had talked about earlier in our discussion, just about what could have been the motive, whether or not this was an escalation, whether or not he just snapped while they were out on that trail. But what do you think just about the reports that, Gerhardt's wife refused to take a photo with him, and that kind of led him into allegedly bashing her head with a rock? Then the syringes come into effect. What do you just make of the whole photo aspect?
Well, as an outsider looking in, not buying it. Sorry, it doesn't make any sense. I've been involved in thousands of assaults, and and numerous homicides and stuff, and that's never the case when people proclaim that it was just a snap and this happened. It never works out that way. There's always a compelling factor when it comes to the actions of the suspect when it comes to cases like this, and I think this is, right up that alley. Him losing his job. Again, what was their relationship like? It's all going to come out at some point, and it's probably going to come out from the victim, which is going to be the compelling factor in this.
Yeah, and I think she'll be a very compelling witness as well, too, especially because I can only imagine just how terrifying it was if she didn't see it coming, if she didn't know what was about to happen, just the imagery of it, the head, or bashing the head with the rock, the syringes. It's just a terrifying thing to kind of imagine. At the very most, we're possibly looking at attempted second-degree murder. Do you think at the very least they have enough for just an assault charge, just to kind of make something stick?
Oh, certainly they have that because, they spoke to the wife probably at some point to get the initial charge on him. And then you can always add charges as you go with the collection of evidence and the collection of statements. So I'm sure that's what happened in this case, but they certainly have enough to hold him, which they're doing. And then the investigation is going to continue. More evidence is going to come in, and more witness statements from whoever might have been in that area, maybe seen what happened, and a background investigation as well with family members and friends. So all that, leans into the investigation and it ongoing, even though he's already under arrest.
And, being in an interrogation room many of times, being the one to ask the questions, I should say, what do you think it'll be like to interrogate, a doctor like this?
Yeah, you know what? It's just like everybody else. You go about him the same way you would in any assault case or homicide case or attempted murder case that you're going to do. You just methodically have your line of questioning set up. You have your partner and you on the same page with how you're going to ask questions, who's going to ask what questions, and then depending on the interview, when to push a little bit or when to pull back a little bit, depending on, what's being said and what's going on at the time. That is, if he doesn't lawyer up, and invoke his right to do so and have the detectives able to speak to him. But that'll all play out as well.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if, we can get our hands on what the interrogation could look like, even some body-worn camera, and see where this investigation, kind of what all happened during those moments. Tom Smith, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Before we sign you off, though, what do you think will happen next?
Oh, I'm interested in keeping up with this case because it's just one of those that just, piques your interest in how a in-depth investigation has to run. So I'm really interested to see, like you said, the interview, if that's possible, if they do conduct one, and the interview of the wife and her statements and her medical condition going forward. So I'm certainly looking forward to keeping up with this and see what the outcome is.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So y'all heard it from the man himself right there, y'all, Tom. So, with that being said, y'all, this is for the guys, the fellas out there who hate your lady tonight, and y'all probably end up back loving her tomorrow because of some of the things that she's done. Take it easy on them out there, fellas, and think twice before you put your hands on them and start going crazy on them. And ladies, think again before you talk crazy to your man, and figure out what type of man you got, before you start talking crazy to him, so that he don't have to put his hands on you and you wind up in a situation like this lady winded up in. Because at the end of the day, it's all tragedy, y'all. It's all tragedy how this ended up. And I could only imagine the lady and what she was feeling at the time she got pushed off a cliff. And I could only imagine the anger that the doctor felt when he did what he did by pushing her. And you know, sometimes people are driven to and provoked to do certain stuff, and that still does not give them the right, though, to do anything harmful to others. You know what I mean? And some people do push others to do harmful stuff, but some people also see wrong in others, and this is why they get pushed to do harmful stuff, y'all. So I mean, it goes back and forth with everybody. Just learn out there to manage your anger if you do have anger, and if you do have anger, at least try to get some counseling for it. Go to counseling, talk about it, talk it out. And if that don't work, then it's probably best you just part ways with each other, so that way stuff like this won't happen, and you wouldn't have a doctor who possibly is going to lose his license and lose his career basically over this, because they didn't blast his face all through the news already. You know what I mean? So just think twice. And for the young lady, you never know what she was going through either, y'all. You know, sometime she could have been going through something herself and didn't know how to tell him, and the only way she could express herself was through anger, and he never got to see the better side of her, because he just seen the angry part and probably the rude part of her, but he never took the time out to see what actually was bothering her at that time, or how could he have fixed her problem at that time. So he thought he could fix the problem by pushing her off a cliff and shooting her up. So that's how he thought he could fix the problem. I mean, there was other ways to fix the problem, though, you know. So at the end of the day, let this be a lesson learned. If this end up going to trial or something, I will backtrack and give y'all an update on what's going on with this doctor in Hawaii accused of pushing his wife off a cliff, y'all. So y'all stay tuned. Tap into my channel. Y'all subscribe to my channel. Handle your business. Let's go.